The firebase crackled under the twin moons of Kepler 442b, casting dancing shadows across the faces of the galaxy's most feared warriors. Around the flame sat beings who had carved their names into the annals of cosmic warfare. Creatures whose very presence on a battlefield could turn the tide of interstellar conflicts. Commander Vexthai of the Obsidian Legion flexed his forearms, each bearing scars from 100 campaigns. His chitinous exoskeleton, black as the void between stars, had deflected plasma bolts that could vaporize lesser beings. Beside him, General Korthmak of the Iron Phalanx sat motionless, his crystalline form refracting the firelight into 1,000 deadly prisms. The Vorthak war chief had personally slaughtered 3 entire enemy battalions during the siege of Proxima Prime. Across the fire, Sergeant Prime Ulthos methodically cleaned her particle rifle, her 6 eyes never blinking in unison. The insectoid warrior had earned her rank by surviving the meat grinder of the Andromeda front, where she'd held a strategic pass against impossible odds for 72 standard hours without rest, food, or reinforcement. These were the elite of the Galactic Defense Coalition, beings who knew no fear, who had faced cosmic horrors that would drive lesser minds to madness. They had stood against the void spawn of the Outer Dark, repelled the machine legions of the Synthetic Dominion, and walked through plasma storms that could melt starship hulls. Yet tonight, in this remote corner of a forgotten world, they sat in contemplative silence around a simple fire. The human was unremarkable by any military standard. Private Sarah Chen of the Terran Expeditionary Force possessed no enhanced physiology, no genetic modifications, no cybernetic augmentations. Her service record was equally mundane. A medical corpsman assigned to their unit only 3 rotations ago. She had seen combat, yes, but nothing approaching the legendary battles that had forged the reputations of her companions. She sat slightly apart from the others, her knees drawn up, staring into the flames with eyes that held depths none of them had initially recognized. The day had been brutal. They'd lost good soldiers to an ambush that had come from nowhere, the kind of loss that even veterans carried with them. Without preamble, without asking permission or announcing her intent, Sarah began to sing. Her voice was soft at first, almost lost beneath the crackling of burning wood. The melody was simple, ancient, something passed down through generations of her species. The words were in her native tongue, incomprehensible to most of her companions, yet somehow universal in their meaning. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound, that saved a wretch like me. Vexatai's mandibles twitched. He had studied human languages as part of his tactical training, knew enough to understand the surface meaning. But there was something beneath the words, something that bypassed translation and spoke directly to whatever souls warriors possessed. The song continued, Sarah's voice growing stronger, more confident. She sang of being lost and found, of sight restored to the blind, of grace that transcended understanding. Her voice carried across the empty plains of the alien world, a sound so purely human that it seemed to reshape the very air around them. Through many dangers, toils, and snares I have already come. General Korthmak felt something crack inside his crystalline chest, not his armor, but something deeper. In his 3 centuries of existence, he had witnessed the destruction of worlds, had orchestrated campaigns that reshaped the galactic map. He was a being of logic and tactical precision, engineered by his people to be the perfect warrior. Yet this simple human melody was doing something to him that no weapon ever had. 'Twas grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Sergeant Prime Ulthos set down her weapon with trembling hands. Her compound eyes, designed to track targets across vast battlefields, were focused entirely on the small human figure across the fire. In her throat, something she had never felt before was building. A pressure, a release that her species had no words for. The song reached its conclusion, Sarah's voice fading into the night air like smoke dispersing on an alien breeze. Silence returned to the firebase, but it was a different silence now. Heavier, more meaningful than before. One by one, the galaxy's hardest warriors began to weep. Vextai's tears were acidic, hissing softly as they fell onto the ground. Korthmak's crystalline form resonated with a low harmonic that spoke of profound sorrow and inexplicable hope. Ulthos made soft, chittering sounds that, in her species, indicated the deepest form of emotional release. They wept for fallen comrades, for worlds they couldn't save, for the terrible weight of being instruments of war in an uncaring universe. They wept for the parts of themselves they had sacrificed on the altar of duty. and for the simple beauty of a human voice raised in song beside a fire on a world whose name they would forget within the cycle. But most of all, they wept because Sarah's song had reminded them of something they had thought lost forever. The knowledge that even in the depths of darkness, even in the face of cosmic indifference, there existed something worth fighting for beyond mere survival. Sarah never acknowledged their tears, never spoke of what had passed between them that night. She simply tended the fire, keeping watch as her companions processed emotions they had no training to handle. In the morning, they would resume their roles as the galaxy's elite warriors, but something fundamental had changed in that circle of firelight, something that would follow them through every battle to come. For they had learned the most human truth of all, that sometimes the greatest weapon against the darkness isn't strength or strategy or superior firepower. Sometimes it's simply a voice raised in defiant hope, singing ancient words beside a dying fire.